Why is it so damn difficult to just do that one thing that could potentially change your life? Whether it's that website update, writing that chapter of your book, applying for the dream job. For some reason, it seems that the higher the stakes, the higher the resistance. And it's really easy for us to write it off as procrastination, to just call yourself flaky or unfocused or a failure. I know I did that for way too many years, but having worked through my own resistance and procrastination patterns, let's say, as well as working with countless clients, I can tell you that procrastination is a symptom. It is not a diagnosis. And there is always a reason that you are not taking action. Sometimes a few reasons. And so in this video, we are going to wipe the slate clean, really understand what is getting in the way of your action, and get yourself unblocked and moving on your way towards your dreams without all of this angst. All right, does that sound good? If so, grab yourself a notepad because we have got 7 big blockers to work through, and I'm going to move fast, and you're going to want to refer back to these because let's be real, this kind of struggle with procrastination is not a one-time thing. All right, let's go. The first step really is self-assessment. And so I've got a little bit of I want to call it an acronym, but it's not really an acronym. I want you to think A, B, C, D, E. Except there are 2 E's. Starting with A. A is for ability. Sometimes when we are embarking on something that's a really big deal, it's new to us. There is a learning curve involved. There might be an element of you being a beginner or not having really tackled this kind of project or activity before, and you are actually just struggling in the skills department. Or the ability could be that you actually need very specific tools, support, some sort of framework. There might be something missing that's actually getting in the way of your ability to do the thing. Just getting clear on that at least allows you to then figure out what the next step is. Because sometimes it's not just about, in fact, it's rarely ever about just trying to tackle the entire challenge at once. You're at point A. What is point B? Point B might be getting some instructions on how to tackle that very tiny first piece of the puzzle, and then rinse and repeat. B is for belief. This is a huge one. It can be related to A. If you are doubting your ability to be able to pull this thing off well, you might have a belief issue. So you are struggling with self-belief. There's like a lack of confidence. There's a lack of you really just like owning what it is you're going to do. You keep questioning yourself, doubting yourself, and you're kind of keeping yourself small. So that's one part of belief. But another huge part of belief is believing in the thing that you're about to embark on. You might be questioning whether this is even going to be helpful. Is this even going to pay off? Is this really the right step that I need to be taking? Sometimes we can have just signed up for something, committed to something, and gone, yes, this is what I need to do. But if you keep avoiding it, there's like a part of you intuitively that's questioning, is this the right move? Is this actually the thing that is going to knock down all those other dominoes? Or am I heading in the wrong direction? So that is another one where you need to run through and go, okay, am I struggling with self-belief? Is there some doubt in me? And if there is, that is completely normal and you can work through that. But identifying it and accepting it and allowing the doubt to exist is already going to help melt away a lot of that resistance. Whereas when we're just in avoidance of it, we just keep running around and doing other things instead. But the belief in what you're doing is something that you can actually sit down and work through in a practical way and go, okay, why did I sign up to this thing in the first place? Is this the right next step for me to take? And big disclaimer with the word right, we often get very caught up in what is the right thing versus the wrong thing to do. What is the best thing that I could do right now? What is going to guarantee my success? And this comes up all the time with my clients. They get themselves in a tizzy because they've got all these ideas and they're like, which is the right idea? Spoiler alert, there is rarely a right idea. In fact, there is not really such thing. There are ideas that are aligned, that come from the inside out, as in that your motivation is very true and authentic, and therefore it is the right thing for you to do because your soul is calling you to do this next thing. And the wrong thing is more about motivation, like you're forcing yourself to do it for the wrong reasons, but the actual act of taking any step, whether it's in your business, your brand, your creative expression, doing anything at all gets us moving. It gets our energy moving. And that is where all of the magic happens. Like, for instance, transparency. I have been avoiding my YouTube channel for a very long time, thinking I needed to have some comeback that was like the perfect video for me to start back on. And there was no perfect video. There's no perfect strategy. I just needed to get over my damn self. And I thought, what better video to create than one that is all about resistance? All right, so C is clarity. Often we are lacking clarity in where to actually start. You know, when you write to-do lists and it's like, update website, create content for Instagram. Those are mini projects in themselves, and we have not identified what the first step is. And so sometimes, so this is coming from someone late diagnosed with ADHD and knows about that overwhelm and that sort of decision paralysis that can happen, just not knowing exactly how to start the task often is enough to send me spinning and off to do 1,000,001 other tasks before I actually sit down to do this one. And so it is really important for us to make sure that whatever we're embarking on, we have chunked it down into tiny little steps. The number one thing for us to do if you're feeling that resistance to sitting down and starting anything is identify the first step. It's like, okay, I need to open the laptop, open up Google Docs. I need to outline 3 key points of this thing that I want to write about. Whatever it is, as soon as you have clarity on the exact next step to take, maybe the next 3 to 5 could be really helpful if there's a huge amount of resistance and it's a big project. At least then you can just narrow it down and focus on that one little thing versus this, I need to update my whole website, where there are so many other steps involved. Now, D. I'm sorry, you're probably not gonna like this one very much. I don't either. D is for discipline. So we are living in a time where distractions are everywhere. We have literally been trained by our smart devices, advertisers, by the way the media companies are working. We've been trained to have as short an attention span as possible and to chase dopamine hits as much as we can. So if you haven't heard of this term, I feel like it's pretty well known now that we all know about dopamine addiction. But basically, every time we get a little hit, a little mini win, whether it's from seeing a notification and then finding out what that notification came from, that gives us a little hit. It's basically a drug for our brain that keeps us chasing the next hit and the next hit and the next hit. Now, we don't get much dopamine from sitting down and tackling a big task. It on its own feels like it's depriving us of the thing that we want, because we want quick wins, we want fast hits of this to keep us going. And so the more we give in to those quick hits of dopamine and keep distracting ourselves, so like let's say you've sat down, you've opened up that project and you've started working on it, 3 seconds later, 3 minutes, if I'm being generous, there's like a ping, and you go and check your phone. You have just trained your brain, reinforced this addiction that keeps you needing more. And so this has just become our entire lives, just a series of us running from distraction to distraction to distraction. And our discipline muscle has gotten very weak. The good thing is, it's like a muscle and we can train it, but it takes work. Some of that work is to first look at how many of these potential distractions can I just remove so that I'm not even having to muscle my way through these distractions. Like having a notification pop up and trying to avoid it is so much more difficult than not having the notification pop up in the first place. So one thing you could do is a distraction stock take of like, what are all the triggers in my space that keep me in this spiral of distraction? Once you get rid of them, then it's about the retraining process and being honest with yourself about how long do I normally actually give myself to sit down and focus on something before I run off in another direction to do something else. It's no different than like training for a marathon. You're not going to immediately go out and run 5, 10 kilometers, miles if you've not been running. Sit down and go, can I just give myself 10 minutes to work on this thing? Sometimes even just 5 minutes is enough. Like set the timer and be like, I'm going to give something my undivided attention for 5 minutes. The thing that blows my mind is that I can have been avoiding this thing for days. And when I finally wrench myself away from Netflix or from reading a book that's much more entertaining, and I let myself just focus on that thing that I'm needing to be working on, suddenly I'm like, oh, the ideas. Oh, this is fun. This isn't so bad. Oh my God, have I seriously been avoiding it this entire time when it's not that painful? And here's another little hack. creating like little to-do lists with those little steps that I was talking about, checking off something on the to-do list does give you a little dopamine hit. And completing big things, I mean, that is like a dopamine party. Okay, so we've gone A, ability, B, belief, C, clarity, D, discipline, E, the first E, because there's actually 2 E's, is environment. Now, this is kind of related to the distractions and also your ability. There is something to be said for creating a supportive environment that you actually want to do that work in. Just because you're sitting down to do work doesn't mean you should be using it as an excuse to kind of punish yourself, put yourself in this horrible environment that feels very deprived of any joy and any sense of like a nice energy. The environment itself can create that excitement and motivation to actually do the work that you do. The environment can also provide you with the things that you need to keep going at a sustainable pace. So for instance, making sure that you have the snacks and the beverages that you need around you so that you don't use that as an excuse to go to the kitchen and take a break 10 minutes in when you realize you're a bit hungry or a bit thirsty. But also for me, creating an environment that feels good, that makes me feel like, oh yeah, like this is my happy place. For instance, I've been doing a lot of work in my home office lately, not just for YouTube, not just for it looking pretty, but because it makes me feel really good. And if I'm in a space that feels good, I'm more likely to do that work. So this is an easy one. Do a scan of your environment, and you might have a few different environments. Like you work on certain things from like a home office, from other things you might work from the bedroom, or you might go to the library. Do what you can to make those environments supportive, and you're already like off and running. Like it's already going to involve less dread for you to sit down and do that work. But let's get to the second E, because this is a huge one, energy. And this is where I want to switch gears a little bit and get a bit more compassionate about the fact that just like we've been trained to be easily distracted and to not do important jobs and just kind of be hooked on devices, something else that most of us have been raised to believe is the right thing to do is to push through, is to force our way through life. It's all about achievement and accomplishment, and it's like work hard, put your blood, sweat, and tears into things, and it doesn't matter what it costs you as long as you get there in the end. And this conditioning that we have been put through has meant that we are like a generation of burnt out people, burnt out humans, where it's normal for us to just be running on empty and pushing through all kinds of fatigue. And also there's like a mental and emotional, even in spiritual burnout, I believe we can all experience, where we are just drained and depleted on every level. And let's say you've gone through the rest of this list, so the A to E, and you're in pretty good shape and you're like, I don't know why I still don't want to do this thing. Have you actually checked in with your body? How tired are you? Is now the time to be working, or is now the time to have a nap, to give yourself some rest? Or if you are sitting in front of a computer all day, or if you're studying all day, or maybe it's looking after kids all day, and then you're trying to sit down at the end of the day when you're already just dead, and then try and do this creative work. I mean, your body might just be telling you something, and maybe what you really need to do is go for a walk, go to a yoga class, like just put on some music and have a dance. Do something that re-energizes you, which could be sometimes about moving energy, and sometimes it's about just laying horizontal and letting the sleep take over. There's a time and place for sure for needing to push through a little bit. Sometimes we have an important deadline, or, well, my life's crazy all the time. If I never do this work, like it's never gonna happen. This is where like self-compassion and discernment is really important. If this was someone else, if this was your best friend, or if this was your child, and you looked at them objectively and you could see how exhausted they were, would you be pushing them to go do the thing right now? Or would you be like, oh my gosh, like I just want to give them a hug and allow them to take a nap? Sometimes we need to pretend that we are someone else and treat ourselves the way we treat other people, because we tend to treat other people a lot nicer than we treat ourselves. I mean, obviously not everyone, but you know what I mean. The people that we love tend to get better care from us than the care that we give ourselves. This is absolutely a massive one that I want you to really think about. Now, we have covered so much, and I'm hoping that some of it landed and made sense and is helpful, but whatever you do, please stop beating yourself up. Stop being so mean to yourself and feeling like you're a failure, shaming yourself. I know there can be a lot of voices from, you know, parents or teachers from when you were younger who were like, oh, you're such a flake, or you're such a procrastinator, or you always leave things till last minute, and none of that is helpful. There are reasons that you're not taking action. And if you can just stop judging yourself and instead get really curious about what's going on, what is actually getting in the way of you taking action, my goodness, it's not just that you will be able to start taking that action, you're going to start to transform your entire being. You're going to become so much more empowered and not be such a victim of circumstance, of life, of your own mind and your own patterns. So self-compassion always, and be patient, and whatever you do, just baby steps. If you can find one thing to improve today, for instance, you remove one distraction that was getting in the way, you have already gotten closer to achieving your goal. If tomorrow you can improve your environment in some way, that's another step towards your goal. And that is all it takes. Rinse and repeat. It doesn't take a complete life overhaul in 1 minute for you to get on your way and to be living the life that you really want to live. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and all the best unblocking and moving forward. It's really important that you do this work, because whatever you're feeling called to do is the thing that is going to make the biggest difference in the world. And we really need you to do that. So don't give up. See you on the next one.